Welcome in. Hello, Margaret.
Hi, how are you? Are we live? I didn't realize it was today.
It's all good. It's all good. Ooh,
It's all good.
it's all good. We're good. We're good. We're good. Oh my God. Okay. So we got so we have a few people live with us already. Hi Kimmy. Kimmy's with us today. I'll hail the subscription fairy. Yeah, all kinds of good stuff. So let's see. I am just gonna while we wait for more people to come in. Oh, wait for more people to come in chat. We're just live on Substack right now. So we wait for
Okay.
more. Yeah, we'll wait for more people to come in chat. I'm just gonna play with the overlay a little bit so we can have that.
Alrighty.
Mm-hmm. And let's see. And no, that's too big. There we go. Still here. I start I've been just tinkering with Streamlabs for a while. Still working out the kinks with it, but this time I think we got it.
Okay. Where's the chat at?
Oh, chat. Yeah, Kevin's cracking
Oh,
over
it's
here.
right up there. It's up
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
up
yeah.
there.
So
Okay,
chat is up
cool.
there, and
Cool.
I also like following on chat on Substack, so we can just after the recording goes, we can just cross post it, and that'll be great.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Now let's see. Yeah. It's not a bad overlay. I usually use this one for gaming live streams, but it's still pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah, I like it.
yeah, yeah. All right, now let's. While that's going on Substack chat is going. Let me restack a few minutes just so I can just promote a little bit. You could actually go into open a separate tab on Substack and like this is a great I don't think demo thing for people if they want to do too. All right, so yes. Now, so far, yeah, I think we're about 5 minutes in. I'm gonna give it another 2 minutes, just wait see if anyone else traction. If not, we got some great clips to post. So even so,
Awesome. All right.
all right. Yeah. So, I this is so hello everyone. I'd like to welcome the honorable and fabulous Margaret Williams to a new show I am starting. It was a bit of a work in progress, but we finally got it, enough stuff on the back end. So I'm gonna try to have more of these conversations called "Let Us Converse" with beautiful weirdos and wonderful humans, like so Margaret Williams. And why don't you, Margaret? To some of my viewers who may not be on Substack, or because I'm going to cross post between Twitch and YouTube as well, why don't you tell us a little bit
Sure.
about yourself?
Well, I'm Margaret Williams. I am a certified executive leadership coach. Okay. I help women who have been marginalized elevate their voices, stop surviving power systems, and start leading with freedom, influence, and authority. I'm honored to be here with you today, Tig. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here with us. Actually, I'm a big fan of your work, and we've been in chat for a while now. Actually, because even like from my previous interview I did on your show on your Substack about how leadership is and how well you got to own it. If you have that power, you got to own it and coming into your own. And even if like it comes into a bit of a fear and a bit of hesitancy. So that goes into our main conversation that we're going to have today is basically navigating conflict and how to navigate either harm reduction or how do you navigate those kind of situations, like what happens when as a leader or someone in power or someone with influence or even just an average person when you may have caused harm or someone has caused harm to you, and what would that look like? We were touched on this conversation earlier in a previous note thread a week or so ago, about how even like as like marginalized peoples ourselves, even if we may not have been in the traditional power structure, we may be put at a disadvantage, that we kind of sometimes we can cannibalize each other a little bit. We can self-sabotage our own efforts. And I want to know, well, that's a good place to start, actually. So what are your thoughts, Margaret?
Yes, and a lot of these things stem from, I think, childhood trauma. Okay, when we look at imposter syndrome, we look at inner critic, um, self sabotage. We look at a lot of these tendencies. It comes from negative self talk that we have experienced during our childhood, and we internalize these things, and
Yes.
then we start to believe that they are true, which
Yeah.
limits our capacity to excel in life.
It does, and there is a lot of discourse around like childhood trauma and come in breaking a lot of those cycles. But even like something I've actually been reading up on and trying to work on myself is actually not just in terms of breaking cycles, but in order to break a cycle of harm, we first have to establish that the harm is being done. And I think that is a redefinition of what accounts as harm. And I think that's something a lot of us struggle with, because it's a very we're in new territory, we're in new waters over here as to what fully accounts as harm. And I was looking forward to talking with you today to pitch this little idea I have about that very topic. So first off, I wanted to first ask a question to you, as to what do you think are the core different forms of how harm can manifest?
Harm can uh, come visual. It can come from visual. Okay, maybe you see somebody get beat. Okay, that in itself can be traumatic. Okay, seeing something, maybe you heard something that was very, very disturbing, and these are things that you keep replaying in your mind over and over. Okay, even with negative self-talk. Okay, and then it can extend even further through physical harm. Okay, even being threatened, anything like that is going to impact us mentally and emotionally, and sometimes physically as well. And these things can develop into complex PTSD if they're done over a period of time.
Absolutely. And in that, well, you mentioned two big ones, both the seeing something like traumatic and experiencing something like your life is in danger. There is a few paper, a lot of research going into it, and the way they were able to categorize it. I'll put all my links in the description as well, for sources and everything. But a big way they were able to categorize what you just described was big T trauma and little T trauma. Big T trauma was be like seeing something traumatic, experiencing physically an actual threat to your life, or seeing someone else that you need to care about, or another human being in that situation. While little T trauma can be encompassed as something a little bit more low grade but consistent. So like death by a thousand cuts, if we will. So that would be like constant criticism, bullying, prejudice, marginalization, all these other things that can just dig and dig and dig. They're not massive wounds, but like I said, death by a thousand cuts, it could be equally, if not as damaging as a few instances of big T trauma as well. And it was interesting because on one hand, we that metric on its own is it allows for a larger amount of discourse, allows for it broadens the horizon of what counts as like a traumatic event, of course, but it also kind of limits us in a way, because by expanding it out laterally, I find there also puts us in a lot of gray area as to how do you prevent this and what can you do about it, essentially. So this is actually a metric I wanted to actually talk to you about, something that I came up with. I call it an HWO, or a human welfare offense. It is any behavior any kind of physical. It is any kind of action towards another human being that poses a harm to a person's welfare in a physical, psychological, developmental, financial, or financial circumstance within a power dependent relationship or an institutional power dependent relationship.
Yes,
So
and
that
I want to. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to talk about how this impacts like our veterans, because they are called to serve, to protect, and to, okay, to bring, to resolve conflicts. We have to sometimes go to war, okay, and in that war you're going to have to sacrifice a few to save the many, unfortunately. And
yeah,
the impacts of this is devastating on both
it is.
sides, because
It
no,
is
it's no
devastating.
win situation.
Yeah, there's honestly a quote from this is a cartoon. I love this show called Steven Universe. The writing on the show is beautiful, but one of the quotes from one of the main characters, Greg Universe, is that no such thing as a good war. Gems were destroyed and people too. There's no such thing as a good war. There's no such thing as a good fight, and there's really no such thing as a good conflict. Conflict can be fought for the right reasons, but the conflict itself is going to suck regardless. Conflict sucks. It's
It
going to get
does.
hurt. Yeah, and I think like why we get into like I mean a core part of conflict is whether it's an argument, a disagreement, or even like a bullying dynamic. What it comes down to is a clash between a power dynamic. It's when a power dynamic starts to rub up on each other, kind of like tectonic plates, if you will. This is a common pattern I see, and that's why the metric that I came up with, the HWO, or the human welfare offense kind of metric, it not just expands it out through little t and big T trauma, but it also affects, it also imply it will, the main core of it is an HWO, human welfare offense would be inflicted by someone in some degree of power. You'd have to have a power dynamic and either use subconsciously or otherwise use that power dynamic to inflict harm, physical, psychological, financial, on another person.
Social, yes.
Yeah, the power dynamic has to be there in order for it to be considered a human welfare offense in this context. This is
So
a
how do you convert this to policy?
How do you convert it to policy is it's interesting because, well, how you would convert it to policy is once you have the human welfare offense is as a policy definition. From there, you could actually go through the metrics of, okay, so if a person is in some degree of a position of power, say like for instance you have say for instance in the case of child sexual abuse or child sexual material, if a caregiver or another adult is in power is in the adult is in technically a position of power against the child, regardless of whether the child where else going on, the adult, or it would doesn't have a caregiver, or it could be a family member. If the adult or the guardian, whatever it is in that power dynamic with that child and does something harmful to that child, then that would categorize as an HWO. The reason we have that well I the reason I came up with the HWO categorization is because it we have a lot of different language and a lot of different words surrounding what counts as abuse, what counts as harm, essentially what counts as a monetary offense. All this is a lot of additional language that comes into it, and that when you have more language to describe a consistent thing, that's not always a good thing. That comes with a lot of gray area. That's where you end up with a lot of that's how you get in the weeds with culture wars and a lot of the things like that. If you have if you keep expanding more terminology to add addendums, it becomes very, very convoluted very, very quickly.
We can see that in our political system, okay?
Yeah,
Unfortunately, okay? So, to make this policy, okay, that means we have to enact additional addendums or amendments, or what did
yeah.
you call it? Yeah,
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 and that's
exactly.
on paper. That's not on practice. That actually it sounds like a good idea because it allows you to change
Right,
things. However,
right.
an addendum on a faulty idea is not quite the magic fix all it was thought to be, you know? It's like
Right.
you can if you have a device that isn't if you have let's say you have like a machine that was designed to be operate in a very specific way for a specific time. You can make
Right.
attachments, you could add a different paint job, you can do all these you could put bumpers and safety guards on it. You can do whatever you want to it. It's still going to be that machine that was designed for that specific purpose at the specific time, even if it was warranted at the time period. But now it causes harm.
And the definition of harm keeps changing as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's honestly,
And
yeah.
so what do we do about that? Because again, we make need to make these changes at the what, local, state, and then federal level.
Hmm. It starts with having a consensus as to what harm entails, and that's where the human welfare offense comes in. Full stop. So if you have, like, say for example, you have this honestly might be a bit taboo, honestly, but the age of consent in a lot of cases is should not be debated, especially like it really shouldn't be. With, of course, child sexual assault is always horrible. Like, nobody's pedophilia is horrible. I can't believe we're in a time period we have to
Yes.
debate that nowadays.
Right.
But yeah, but the problem how we enforce of enforcement, because we, of course, we're on the same page on that, but the enforcement comes into play when you have ages of consent be as a threshold. Oh, like, oh, what happens if a kid is 16, the other person's 17? It gets into the weeds very, very quickly, and that allows bad actors to come in and exploit those gaps and exploit those loopholes. Even then, you have like 32 states, like plus 32 states plus across the United States, that technically legalize child marriage on paper, with by allowing minimum age marriage laws with parental sign off. It's basically a loophole, and since marital rape is not across the board consistent across different states, it gets very easy to find loopholes, and people will continue to be harmed even if you make an addendum changing the age of consent to from 12 to 18, as it should be. It doesn't always it's not the fix all we always thought it was. So
Well,
yeah.
Well, from what I'm seeing from the administration is they want to turn these things back and allow people to get married at younger ages, which means that they're going to start having more babies younger, and they're going to have much more expenses as a result. So how is that helping anybody in this day and time
It's
when they're
not.
steady?
It was never about helping anyone, and the unfortunate thing is that the only reason we are able to, like, recognize that a lot of these, like, outdated, archaic, like, child marriage laws and pedophilia oriented, like, loopholes are in existence is because they've always been there, but nobody bothered to take a look. And this is
Well,
the problem. Yeah, this is the problem I have with addendums, because on one hand, like, there's only so much progress you can make on a foundation that is inherently harmful.
how can you do that? You're going to you cannot build a solid foundation on contaminated land and not have it impact these the entire facility, because you
Yeah,
got drinking water, okay? And all these things leaches from the soil, okay?
yeah.
So, and all the contaminants there. So a band-aid? No, you
It's
can't
not
do
gonna
that.
solve that. Yeah, a Band-Aid's not gonna
No,
solve it. But even then, you can't
no.
just tear the whole thing down without risking additional casualties as well. It's not. It's a lot. So much more complicated. On one hand, we understand that we are in a collapsing, decaying empire. On the other hand, wiping the whole slate clean and starting over is going to cost a lot more human lives and casualties than anyone is comfortable going through with themselves. It's not.
Who
There is
pays?
no. Exactly. It's
We
it's not
we pay for,
maintaining this. Exactly. Maintaining the status quo is not enough. Swiping the wiping the board clean is not going to cut it. So that's honestly why I'm really excited to talk to you about talk about these ideas, because if we're going to move forward, we have to focus on not just, like, damage control or addendums or patchwork. We have to kind of build a softer foundation to catch the pillar when it falls, for lack of a better term.
absolutely. So, uh, How do
In
we go
terms,
about doing that?
we go about doing that by one idea I came up with actually, especially in terms of the age of consent. This was a good one I came up with earlier. Instead of having a single age cutoff or threshold, it would be a consent bracket model. So it replaces the hard age cutoff with age ranges that reflect neurological development stages as we need them. Essentially, bracket agency is determined by developmental proximity, not chronological age gaps. Does that make more sense?
Yes, it does. But then you're talking about letting people get married earlier, and then you putting all these children in the workplace and in these unsafe work conditions.
Yeah,
Okay, and which is
it's not sustainable.
no, it's not, and you're making more problems as a result, and you're bringing more unwanted pregnancies as well
Yeah,
because
it was always like honestly, the opposition was always going to be focused on the a Christian Taliban. Let's just call it for what it is. The Heritage Foundation, all of it was always going to be the Christian equivalent of the Taliban. They promised like a lot of these men going along with this crazy plan were promised virgins milk and honey. That's basically what it came down to. And in combat to that, if we're going, because on one hand we recognize that, and of course we gotta stop it, and we're gonna hold people accountable, of course, but
we
it's not
have
enough
to.
just to, yeah, we got to, of course, but it's not enough to dismantle that whole decaying system without replacing it with something else. And in order that something else is what I'm proposing for one aspect. One aspect of this larger problem is a redefinition of what counts harm as a human welfare offense. Therefore,
We
we
have. Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. What you were saying earlier.
What I was going to say is that we have to have stand for something or fall for anything. Okay, we need to make these necessary changes, but we need to get and the house and the what's the other one called? We need to get
House,
them in
House and the
line.
Senate.
Yeah, to agree upon this. So how do you put that into the system? Okay, you put it through the system. How? Through this system that they call like AARP. What do you call these organizations?
501c nonprofit, or a think tank. That's what I'm trying to establish here. I love having these
We need
conversations.
that.
Yes,
We
yes.
need
Hello,
something
Daryl.
something to replace the Heritage Foundation. The
Yes.
Republicans has the Heritage Foundation. What do we have?
Well, I'm really glad you asked because I'm work. This is honestly why I'm working towards my career in actuarial science, because I want to establish that rival organization called the Horizon Coalition.
I love that. Okay, the Heritage Foundation, and what is yours?
The Horizon Coalition.
Okay, I love that.
The
Okay, so
Horizon
how do
Coalition is in, yeah, is basically is like, if you just tomorrow, tomorrow is a place where things are better. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like today or yesterday. It's a place where things are better, and if you keep following that horizon, it will get there.
how do we get this in enacted? Okay.
Well, first thing I would love to do, I'm currently, you can actually see see my posted work on Tigologyverse.com. I'm actually trying to establish a Patreon as well as a pay subscription model for my Substack, all throughout this website, all through Tigologyverse.com. And so, if you want, you can sub and see a lot of these bigger ideas and pitches, like the full policy framework for the human welfare offense idea being pitched that way. If you want to read more on that there, you can do that. But also, there's more to come with that. But also, a major thing that I'm trying to establish here is establish a network with leadership or leadership experts and people with expertise like yourself, Margaret, as well as all my other friends here who have joined us here on Substack in chat. Hello, Neuro. Hello, Kibi. Hello, Naida. Hello, everyone. And what we need right now, the Horizon Coalition is or will be an organization with people with a lot of different skill sets, a lot of different talents, a lot of different backgrounds that come together and they work on a lot of different projects. It will be in the future to be a fully operational think tank that can not only back certain projects like an up and coming company of mine, Gaia Tech Industries, that I'm looking forward to building, focus on renewable energies and whatnot, all kinds of fun stuff. But also, the thing to be awesome because it would also be able to, instead of bribing politicians like the Heritage Foundation, we could be like a really fun, a back end source of infrastructure and revenue for different activist movements. In the chat, we have the Honorable Naida Green, who is the leader of Disability Community for Democracy Inc. I highly
All
recommend going.
right.
Oh yeah, how strong she is in disability rights activism and organization, and she has that network, and she has an rising
Amazing.
Substack. Yeah,
I would
and
love to have a conversation with her on my Substack too, because I wanted to tell you that I want to hook connect you with, Evie, Natasha K. Yeah, I told you about Will Fullwood. Okay. Also, we got Walter Ryan, we got Nick Perro, we got all these powerful people within Substack. We need to start having these conversations, getting you out there on each of these platforms to talk about your initiative. Okay, because this is too important not to happen, not to put out there. Okay.
it's too important to stay silent. This is too important
Exactly.
to be forbidden knowledge. It shouldn't have to take
Absolutely.
a. I mean, this is the example of give like the Library of Alexandria after the fall of the Roman Empire and the start of the Middle Ages. The Library of Alexandria was burned to the ground with the start of the Protestant Revolution. They burned it and they murdered one of the most remarkable women in human history, Hypatia of Alexandria, who was a polymath. She was a scholar. She was remarkable, and they did this because of a rising fervor of religious zealotism, and on behalf of a whole bunch of wealthy backers. Like, hey, if we keep people ignorant, superstitious, and scared of each other, then we can maintain power for as long as possible.
That's
And
what we're seeing again today.
that
Okay.
was
They're
the start
using
of
it,
what, though. Yeah, that event was what we know today as like the start of the Dark Ages, or the start of the Middle Ages, essentially.
basically using the same tools and techniques from the Roman times. Okay,
Yeah,
on us.
yeah,
So
even
we
even
can we
prior
can
Romans.
we can do the same thing. Okay,
Yeah,
create our own rule book on how we're going to proceed. Okay, to save our generation and future generations. Okay.
yeah, and
You-
it all comes back to this core idea that surrounds the Horizon Coalition is taking what we know, the technology of today, as well as the knowledge from the past, and merging them together, integrating them into something new, something forward, something beautiful that wasn't like today, it wasn't like yesterday, it wasn't a rebrand or an aesthetic reboot or anything like that. It's something new, and I think that's something I'm really looking forward to working with you all on in the future.
let's go. How do we start? What do we have to do? What do you need from us to make it happen?
All we need is more viewers. If you could share this video, you could share my website, tigologyverse.com. You could share my Substack, Tigology on Substack. I have my daily essays and writing towards all that on the standard Insomniac essays and edits to add series, as well as my short form essay series, to be considered, just for little bits and pieces like little thought abstracts. Also, I'm happy to announce that I'm partnering with Naida as a regular contributor to Disability for Community for Democracy Inc. as a regular contributor to her publication as well. So stay tuned with that. Subscribe. And we really just these kind of things, they start organically. It's not just it's something not something you
Yes,
can just dive headfirst into. These things
correct.
start organically by building up these ideas first and foremost, because we're very much in early stages of it. And but we also need to just as we bring more people and having more of these conversations together, we can establish a solid network so that when we get the paperwork in order and the framework and the infrastructure, we'll be ready.
I love that. And so what we in cultivating and nurturing these relationships, we are able to rise, okay, help each other rise, okay, collectively. So we
Yes.
all so we all can win. That's a win,
Yes,
win, win, a win for everybody, and that's what we need. It's time out for taking losses. It's time to for us to take our power back and take our country back, and make it what we want it to be. Okay,
exactly. Either we're all progressing together or none of us are. That's
and
really what it
that
comes
is
down
not
to.
an option. That's not an
That is not an
option.
option. And even the people that think they're like they're benefiting from this, even the people that like these horrible men that think they can just do this to people and get off on it and be happy with it, they're miserable themselves too. Nobody
We know
in
that.
town, yeah,
We
they're
know
not.
that.
Nobody is happy doing this, and they delude themselves into
Exactly.
thinking, well, this is the way it should be. Why isn't
Based
this
on what?
working? Based on
Based
what?
on what? And who?
Based on
Okay.
what and who?
Yeah, because he said he wanted to what? Make America great again. We were already great. So what the hell? I'm saying, we were already great. You gonna take us back to 1929? I'm not going back there to where we got to fight for women's rights again. You already done stripped us of our abort abort abortion rights.
Reproductive rights,
Okay,
yeah.
exactly. So what's next? Then you're gonna come for interracial marriage, and then you're gonna come for gay marriage and everything else. You're gonna strip us of everything.
Even like prior to 1920, like things weren't all. I mean, it's all about just reverting to a period of superstition and fear above all else. And I get like some people,
Yes,
and it sucks because there's some people who genuinely cannot be persuaded with kindness. It can only be persuaded through a kick in the butt or a kick in the
or
teeth. But it's
greed,
or greed.
greed.
But it ultimately is kind of paradoxical because like, oh, then fear works. Like, no, it doesn't. The only thing time fear works is because destructive comfort is it's too easy to stay put. It's too easy to stay silent. It's too easy to stay hidden. It's too easy to wrap yourself around and just wrap yourself in the void and do nothing.
And we cannot let that happen. We know
No,
that,
we
okay?
know we can't let that
Because
happen.
exactly, no, we cannot. So we have to stop compromising. We have to stop giving away our power and asking for permission and just start taking action. Okay? Take
Exactly.
action.
Yeah, and I think like honestly, there was a quote from a professor that I had a while ago. That he said it kind of boggled my mind a little bit. It's like, well, cigarettes kill people, and we know that. But why do people? Why? Well, that's why fear always works. Fear motivates people because you need to show people what's going to happen to them if they smoke cigarettes. And then I pointed out to him, it's like, do people smoke cigarettes because smoking feels good? Nicotine is a dopamine response. It makes you feel good. It relaxes you. That's the only reason people do it to begin with because smoking feels good. Nicotine feels good. The fact that it's
Duh.
harmful to your health, yeah, duh. But the fact that it's harmful to your health means that it doesn't that it has that little cognitive dissonance thing going on. It's so if
So
for yeah
so you
for so
make it
much.
okay because you put a label on it, say it's okay to smoke it even though it's killing you.
It's okay to smoke even if it's killing you. The same way, I mean that's how everybody justifies some level of harm in some way. It's so much
See?
easier to stay where you are and to stay with the comfort in dysfunction. If you're all you know is dysfunction, if all you know is unhealthy habits, if all you know is this coughing in your lungs, this kind of if you're used to it, then the change is going to feel uncomfortable. The change is going to feel disruptive. The change is going to feel scary. And
It is. And that's
yeah,
why a lot of people prefer to stay in a rut
feel free to stay in
because
the run.
that's what they know.
Yeah, and it's also what like drives people to a lot of these extremist movements because a lot of these extremist organizations or these high control groups or even like an abusive relationship, like whether it be parental or someone else in a position of power, if it creates a power dynamic that is inherently addicting. It's actually
Yeah,
the far right behaves very similar to that of an abusive relationship. It becomes
that's the
the
whole
only
intent.
Yeah,
That's
it
the whole
becomes a
intent.
source of comfort and a source of relief while also being the thing that kills you, slowly kills you from within.
And the same thing with social media. Let's keep it real. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how it
Doom
was designed.
strolling.
Yeah, I mean the
Yeah,
algorithm. I
right.
mean, I mean, I remember a time when social media before the invention of an algorithm was there. It was a lot harder to build a following that way. You had to do it organically, kind of like how you do it on Substack here. Before like the algorithm was even invented as a feature within these apps, in these softwares. But the moment the algorithm came into play, then it's very much casino oriented. Anyone remember
So
Club Penguin? We used to
not
have like spaces
vaguely.
online for kids, and but those are no longer profitable, so it's easier to throw kids to the casinos, throw kids in the coal mines and prescribe them heroin when they break their leg like they used to do in the 1920s.
Yeah, we are not doing well. We're going back to the 1929, and we're stripping all of the regulations. Because you can see the air we breathe, the water we drink. They want to strip all that away so all the profits that are saved go back to where it came from the 1%. Okay,
Yeah,
they're
but even
finding
so,
every
and
way
even
to extract from us in every way. So at the end, we left with nothing.
yeah, and no, and when there's nothing left for most of us, there's nothing left for any of us.
And that's what they failed to realize.
Yeah, they
Are
get
we
so
in the
wrapped up in this, and yeah, and I think that's why like it's become like it's a bit of addiction within itself, because that's why drug use is so common among these oligarchs and oligarchs and billionaires and stuff like that. They're desperate for that next high because they spent their entire lives wrapped around this idea of I'm going to be the wealthiest person in the world, so no one will be able to fuck with me again.
Yeah,
And they
but there's
got
a
that in their
cost.
40s, and they got that in their
But that
40s, and it's like, oh my god, now what?
there's a cost associated with it. Okay, you don't get away scot free. Everybody pays. Okay, including
Yeah,
them. But you won't know it because they keep all their misery to themselves. They don't want people to know that they're really miserable in their lives.
they're
Okay, and they
dying.
really they hate themselves.
They're killing themselves. I mean, I mean, it's always just like, it's a constant feed of like little bit of cannibalization. They're consuming themselves from the inside out, and it all that's what addiction in a way does. There is no sustainable way to inflict harm on other people. Like fear for its own sake, cruelty for its own sake, like bondage for its own sake. It never actually works. And
And you
this,
know why?
yeah,
The laws of attraction works the way it was intended. When you do good, good things come back to you. When you do bad, it's karma. It's gonna come back. It's just dependent on the time frame. Okay? But
ex-
everybody gets theirs in the end. We may not necessarily see it, but it happens. So
yeah,
be careful what
everybody,
you put out there in life. Be careful what you do to people, and be careful what you do and what you say, because it'll come
yeah.
back tenfold.
Yeah,
Right?
not even just like coming back like a boomerang or like karma and stuff like that. But it's also about every single person has impact. If you
Yes.
exist, if you're alive, you have impact. And I think that's kind of like a disconnect that a lot of people have a struggle with understanding is that, oh, I'm just one person. What am I supposed to do about the world as a whole? But the way I explain it, it's like think of like a grasshopper. A grasshopper is tiny. It seems insignificant. You can squish it with your fingers. It's very, very weak on its own. But you put a whole bunch of grasshoppers together in one place, and the Old Testament calls that a plague.
And you remember Kung Fu? He called that boy grasshopper. Remember that?
Grasshopper.
Remember that?
Yeah, oh my god, exactly. And it really just comes back. Everybody has impact, and I think like oh, how do you know if you're doing the right thing? How do you know if you're a good person if you either don't believe in God or something like that? It's like, well, how do you know if you want to do right instead of causing harm? It's all about recognizing that you have impact. And if you have impact, whether you want it or not, you have the choice to make that impact a good impact, a net positive, not perfect, not horrible, but a net positive. And it's when you have a net positive and you're moving towards that, it's a constant state of motion. There's room for improvement. There's room for growth.
Momentum, like somebody told me earlier. Momentum, exactly. I forgot what the mathematical equation for momentum is, but true enough. So even if it's taking little small iterative steps, you're still moving in a positive manner. And as long as we're taking these small iterative steps every day, we're moving towards our goal. And we just need to be mindful of that. And each and every one of us have impact, but we don't think we do because we were told otherwise by
Yeah.
society.
Or we
Okay?
just deny the impact we have altogether because we, looking back, would
Exactly.
recognize that our impact was inherently harmful. And the thought of coming to
Yes.
terms with that scares the living shit out of some people.
Right, but we need to get over and beyond that. We need to deprogram ourselves and realize our value and the things, our gifts, our experience, and things what we bring to the world. Each and every one of us are unique, and we have what it takes to survive and to thrive. Okay,
Yes.
but we have to believe in ourselves. Okay, but if you don't believe in it yourself and love yourself and respect yourself, we can never get there.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like some, and it's also about like, everyone has impact, but that also means that everyone has power, and it's knowing
Yes.
what to do with that power that counts. And I think that's why, like, I touched on the self sabotage aspect earlier in our chat, is that a lot of, I mean, a lot of, I have been lifted up and I have been beaten down by people who look just like me, people in my community across the board. And it's really frustrating because on one hand, it's like, okay, I want to make these things happen. We want to make these improvements. We want to make other people's lives better, but you're arguing over who said what term correctly. It's a bit frustrating at times because, like, on one hand, like, we understand, we recognize the opposition is completely batshit nuts. On the other hand, we are still infighting amongst ourselves, which are supposed to be the resistance, on what is the correct way to resist and what is the effective way to resist, and all these different nuances within it. And it's really just like, it comes back to a question like, do you want to use the impact you have to make things better, or do you want to be right?
Okay, that's the thing. Most people want to be right. For me, it's like, let's do what's right. I don't give a damn about my feelings. Has nothing to do with. We need to look at the overall picture. What are we trying to achieve here, and how do we achieve it? Okay, we
Yes.
need to put aside our differences and say, okay, what things do we have in common? Common goals, common interests, and how can we, and what's the goal, and how do we come together, put our egos aside, and do just that? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the Black Panthers, they partnered at times with the Italian mob and the mafia for various union strike
Absolutely.
operations, and
You
even
had
like
no
you
choice.
have a lot of like Chinese immigrants and Korean immigrant groups that partner with various civil rights movement during the 60s and 70s. All of those groups work together. I mean, we have that ability, but that knowledge that history was erased because the moment we actually got together and did something with it, the opposition did not like that very much. So they condition the entire
Absolutely.
generation to forget about it.
And even they came together during Harriet Tubman. Okay,
Hmm.
she couldn't have brought back all of those. She never lost the customer. I call it customer. She never lost one because she had help. It wasn't just her. It
Yeah,
was Brown. It was all people from all nationalities helping out with that, like with the
yeah. I
with
mean,
the
like,
civil
even I
rights
mean,
movement.
yeah,
We have
exactly.
to
I
do
mean, like,
that.
we saw that. I was saw this whole discourse thing about the movie Sinners, like Michael B. Jordan, about all the Chinese immigrants running the shop in Mississippi. It's like, this is the Jim Crow South. You're not gonna, if you want catfish for your fish fry, you're not gonna go to the Billy Bob's store down the corner store. You're gonna go to Mr. Kim's convenience store and get your stuff there. That just makes sense.
Well, this is the world we living in. When you have all of this debt and we have to sell it to China, okay, that there's a cost associated with that.
Yeah,
Okay, I
and
can see
I
this
think it's,
back.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can
No,
see
no,
this
no. It's
back in. I can see this back in the early 2000s when a lot of these metropolitan cities were going belly up. Okay, and the Chinese came in and bought up all of that land. They redesigned and reconstructed all these things, and you go through all these metropolitan areas now. They're all Chi- most of the Chinese living over there now. They're smart. Okay, they take their money and invest it in our property, and then we have to move from the cities and we have to move out to the suburbs. Okay,
It's crazy because this is kind of this is the cycle of empire. This is what happens when empires rise. Because when the Roman Empire fell and the Europe was in a constant state of in conflict with one another, different noble houses, different whatever, were constantly fighting with each other. The Islamic world in the Middle East, they had their shit together. There was a lot of people don't realize, but like the Baghdad House of Wisdom was this massive university in modern day Iran. It was this they had their they many of their scholars, like one of them, I forgot his name off the top of my head, but he invented algebra. Dude invented algebra. And then we have a lot of to think, like our modern conception of what teaching hospital, like the structure of how university hospitals actually function, that we got from the Persians. We have so much to thank from like so many other cultures around the world. It's not just
Look,
one person,
Egyptians.
one. Yeah, yeah. Even in the Egyptians, honestly, what we know is the Egyptians were not actually called the Egyptians. They didn't refer to themselves as that. They were the Kush Empire for like 10,000 years, and they were multicultural in that facet too. And even so, like once the Middle Ages, in like, feudal era Europe, were starting to get their restart in the 1700s, 1600s, 1700s. The Islamic world was starting to decline, back and forth with the whole Mongol Empire thing. And the point I'm making is that empires come and empires go. We're kind
We
of
see
seeing,
that
yeah, we see
throughout
that. And right
history.
now, the next empire that's on the rise, for better or for worse, is China.
It
And
is
that's
what it is.
it is what it is. And I think if we want to, like, right now, we shouldn't be focused on like, oh, we should be the best. Like we're always the best. Like no, what we need to focus on right now is we are in a position where a lot of us are hurting, a lot of us are divided. We're all kind of dealing with the wounds of the last 300 plus years of European of imperialism, and that's not going to go away that easily. I think there's a lot. I think honestly, I mean, to my credit, to my generation's credit, honestly, trying to find community in while knowing all of this, while dealing with being aware of the generational trauma the last 300 years plus of imperialism has caused so many people around the world. The entire human race as a whole has been affected by this, and
And, and the standing of the United States, it can't be good at this point. You know what I'm saying? It seems
it's
like
not.
that we lost that war with Iran, and what does that say about our authority as a country? It looks like we become a laughing stock.
What authority?
You
It's over. It's over.
okay? Okay.
What authority? It's over. It's all over. And I think that's something we need to
Yeah,
understand.
right. Yeah, when you open your mouth, they have a saying. It was Abraham Lincoln. If you open your mouth and then you show you a fool, and then then you've given your power away already. Okay, so
Yep.
you show that you weak. Okay, so the enemy can come and do you any kind of way. It's like, oh, we
Yeah.
got them where we want them. Okay,
Yeah,
we
but
can
even
leave,
then yeah.
we can keep the shorts of Harmut's down forever, and we will bring them to their freaking knees
Yeah.
financially, and so we won't have any money. So that what is that going to do to us as a nation? We're
What
going to
it's going to
be
do to us is, well,
prey.
why did we set ourselves in this position where we're dependent on imported oil for everything we have running in our country? The
You
fact that
have to
we
ask the
rely so much on fossil
Republicans.
fuels and rely so much from like our entire electrical grid, so many aspects of our lives right now are oriented on the assumption that we can just bully the rest of the world and get whatever we want. That's no longer the case.
But
It never should have been
yeah,
the case.
we can do that, but there's repercussions.
Yeah.
Because who's gonna trust you? Who's gonna give you anything? Who wanna do anything for you after that? I would say, you know what? You don't come over here. Okay.
You can't be
I'm not
nasty. You can't be
interested.
nasty and needy. You can't be nasty and needy.
No, you can't.
No, you can't.
N- and not be successful.
No, and
Okay.
that's not gonna work. Yeah, you can't be nasty and needy and still expect success. And it all really comes down to like we're kind of like, oh yeah, we need to understand that the United States as an empire has caused significant harm
All
to
over the world.
all over the
All
world,
over the world.
all over the world. And I know, yeah, all over the world. And confronting that fact is something a lot of people have a hard time doing, but it needs to be done. We
Who
need
likes
to
a
be,
bully? Who
yeah.
likes a bully?
Nobody likes a bully.
Okay.
Nobody likes a
Sure
bully.
don't. And that's
Yeah,
why I
and I
be
think it's like,
concerned.
and this whole bunch of denials, like, well, it was fine back then. It should be fine now. It's like, no, it was never okay. It was always harmful. But I think we live and we learn. We live
And
and we
that
learn.
makes us a target internationally. As we
Yeah.
want to I don't even know if I want to travel internationally. Where you from? I'm from the United States. Do I want people to know I'm from the United States? Okay.
Hmm.
They're gonna
Yeah.
look at you like, oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. They're even gonna say like, "Are you okay? Do I need to call
No, I'm
someone?"
not
Or they're gonna
okay.
kick
No,
you out of the
I'm not
freaking room.
okay. Okay, I'm
It
not
depends.
okay.
Yeah.
Most of us not okay. We just pretending. Okay. We just
Like
faking it till we make it. We not okay. How can you
no.
be okay when we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow to our health care? What's going to happen to, you know, to our benefits? Okay?
Like two thirds of so many two-thirds of people can barely afford. I mean, I'm relying on benefits right now because I this is something that I'm healing from as well. It's we
Most
have
of us are living above our means because we
yeah,
can't afford uh, the prices are continuing to go so escalated so much we can't
yeah,
afford
and
to
we can't,
even
and this whole
basic
going back to the
needs.
yeah, and
Basic needs are
it's only coming, it's crashing down because it's inflated to the point where I mean, even like I'm 26 years old, right? I had to be homeless for 4 years in order to qualify for financial aid and college and independent housing and everything else that I needed in order to sustain myself because my home situation was not safe. And it was not conducive to my development. It was harmful to my welfare and my development. And as a 21-year-old, 26-year-old now, and the fact that homelessness should not be a prerequisite to independence and autonomy, autistic or not, it just shouldn't be that way. And the
no,
fact,
it should not. No, it
yeah,
should not. And I know recently,
this has been a ballooning situation. I think where we are right now is that like the cost of living has always been terrible. If you're a young person trying to get out of getting out of your parents' house, there used to be a time when you turned 18 and you could just get your shit together and pack up and go, and that would be the end of it. No longer the case, and that ended like in the 80s. And then okay, so you go to college and get yourself set up with housing there as well. No longer the case either because scholarships are hard to come by unless you're very lucky like I am or very exceptional in some degree. Like again, like I am in a clinical sense, but it's
can
also
you
yeah, it also like skyrocketing cost of tuition, skyrocketing cost of student housing. I mean, half the people in my age are kind of in a perpetual state of teenagerdom. They're kind of just stuck, and it's hard. That is a form of harm in itself. Like you have so many.
it is.
I tried
It
to
is.
yeah, my parents honestly, not just mine, but so many other parents. I grew up in the 2000s, 2010s, and so many other parents they thought, oh, if I can fix my kid's autism, I can just pump them full of psychotropic medication and psych meds, and they'll be fixed. That was
Don't
one. It nearly killed me. Two, it killed a lot of other people, a few people that I was friends with, that I'm mourning, grieving the deaths of as well. But also, it's recognizing that after the fact that this was a harmful practice. Does that make my parents monsters? Does that make the people who are responsible for this monsters? No. Does it mean that they caused harm that needs to be rectified and acknowledged? Yes.
how are you gonna rectify that?
How are you going to rectify that? Well, first you have to acknowledge that the harm was done. Second, you have to build the policy initiative, not just on paper, but also in terms of systems, in terms of organizations, as to how these cases are investigated and how these, in order to not just prevent, but also ensure that people can get out of these situations a lot easier than I had to.
These systemic problems exist in the world of where we had Jeffrey Epstein. So how we have to first resolve that, and then in addition to make sure that future harm is preventable.
Yeah, not just preventable, but also actively healing from now because we're a little wise away from being preventing from the preventative save right now. We're a while away from being able to like sustainably prevent harm like this, like that what happened to me from happening because we're still kind of in the weeds of defining what harm is. And that's honestly why
Exactly.
the human welfare offense threshold that I came up with is kind of new. It's a new thing. It's basically it's defining the perpetrators and victims of harm based on power dynamics instead of demographic. That's the focus of it.
We need to fund this, okay? I don't know how they're going to fund it when you funding this war and all these unnecessary construction going on at the White House, and all of this nepotism, favoritism, and all of this money laundering and everything else. How are you going to pay for this healing portion and this health care that we desperately need in this era? I don't see it
Oh,
happening.
well, one idea is what we can start with is consolidating some branches of civics and government that we already have at our disposal right now. One idea. This is actually separate from the child abuse cases that I was mentioning earlier. But one thing I noticed that we could really solve really quickly is in terms of bullying as well as like on a systemic level. So institutional harm is a big facet in this. So the example that I give from like say like the NYPD for instance, like how are you going to investigate cases of police brutality if one the body cams they're wearing can be turned off, and two, the IIB Investigative Bureau Department in the NYPD is still a technically is a unit is a it is a task force within the NYPD. How do you fix? You can't investigate itself essentially. Like the scanner can't the wireless like software scanner and the antiviral scanner can't scan itself.
One
So
of the ways to eliminate the violence is to get rid of ICE.
yeah, that's a big one, honestly. But
Why
then,
do
yeah,
we
get rid
need
of
them?
yeah. But also, like once
Okay.
we have that, we still have a lot of these perpetrators that joined in the first place that are also on registries and active abusers themselves. So we got
Yeah.
so say hypothetically we manage to just dismantle abolish ICE entirely. We still have all these individuals, all these people that are just running around causing all kinds of harm. How do we prosecute them? And a lot of them are actually former or even like current police officers. And it's honestly something that the idea I was mentioning earlier. If the investigative bureau is still as a task force within the NYPD, it would make more sense to sever that. Basically, you just like sever that task force away from being a police department as task force and make it a regulatory body in City Hall. Wouldn't it just
Makes
be
too
easy? Yeah,
makes too
exactly.
much
Wouldn't it?
sense.
Exactly. It makes sense. And it's so easy to do. All you have to do is move that one. And all you have to do is like dismantle. All you have to do is like just take it apart in the NYPD side and rebuild the same task force with the same purposes, the same regulation, the same clearance in City Hall instead of within the NYPD.
Makes perfect sense, but we need to limit term limits, okay? Because those people will never agree to something like that. They agree to maybe in your face, but behind your back, they're like, "No, we ain't passing that."
We ain't passing that. Yeah, it's really just like, and they're like, oh, it's always no. It takes forever. It takes forever. But the moment they want to actually dismantle people's rights, it goes very quickly.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, very
That's a
quickly.
double standard, right? Double standard.
Yeah, and I think it's double standard, but it also goes into not just in terms of like doing things the right way in terms of the committee and everything, because if there's so many hurdles and hoops and hurdles you have to bypass in order to make things better, but why is it easier to tear things down than to make things better? It comes back to a
You
point of comfort. Why do we have to threaten guillotines and pitchforks in order to coerce people in power to make things better? Because it's comfortable to be in dysfunction. It's comfortable to be
absolutely,
in
and
dysfunction.
that keeps everybody down here, and they're up there. It keeps them up there superior, and keep us down here to where we have to be dependent and reliant upon them for everything.
And then they turn
That's
around and
that's
question why
power.
we have Luigi and Paper Mario burning shit down and killing people.
Yeah, you can't have it both ways. You keep poking the bear is eventually gonna poke you back. You got to have common sense enough to know that. Okay?
Yeah, make sure your impact is a good one. It shouldn't be that hard, but sometimes people forget it. And I think that's something I wanted to mention earlier. Is like in terms of like bullying, in terms of having that like strong like positive impact on the world around you, it's this idea that well, yeah, well, one, everybody has an impact. Make sure it's a good impact. That's a big one. But it's also important that that we understand that it's sometimes you can't just, it's never just words. It never stops at words. It never stops as opinions. It never stops as ideas. That never stops that way. And even then, that's like something I was mentioning earlier. Is like, in terms of policy, in terms of structural changes you can make, is one thing is also noticing our weaknesses and our weak points in the gray areas of how we investigate these cases. Like, how are we supposed to investigate bullying and verbal harassment using security footage that doesn't record audio by default?
Good question. What do you suggest?
A suggestion, a different suggestion would be interview based. So you'd have to first you have to have like at least two people doing on a task force, or a few people on a task force. It'd be a lot take a lot longer, but you have to interview the victim, interview the person proposing it, who's actually who's making the complaint, and you also have to interview the person who is the subject, the perpetrator, the presumed perpetrator of the incident. And you go through all the evidence, you go through each of them, and then you talk to each of them separately, instead of just immediately jumping to one position or the other, or just relying on security footage on its own. It's like, oh, well, I didn't see anything happen here. All I saw is that you swung first.
And that's the good thing about having camera footage, because I remember when they did to go to court and all of these things,
Yeah,
you know, yeah,
but the
it's
problem is
really, go ahead.
yeah, but the problem with camera footage is that it's not always as foolproof as we think it is. There's
Exactly,
yeah,
because then they'll pick it apart and say, well, oh, that's perception. Okay, where were you at across the street? Where were you looking? You know, and so they poke holes in your defense that way. Okay, there's no way you could have seen this because you were standing this way and this and that. You know, so yeah.
yeah, but even so, like the lack of audio is a big one. I mean, do we know that most CCTV footage or cameras are not capable of recording audio, for better or for worse? And it also goes into like how accurate our facial recognition software is. It's like that's not good either. Because like, oh, then we just need to improve our camera system. No, that's not good either. That's a secure that's a surveillance state, and that's not great either.
So what's the answer? Because we got this satellite system that tracks our house. You can track it, you know. So
For
how can
better
we
or for
use
worse, anyone can find you, but also like for good intentions or for bad intentions. Like Google Maps is a great thing, but it's also like leaves you vulnerable to like bad actors. So it really just comes down to redefining harm and how we tackle those situations before they escalate. It's not just about like finding evidence and proving a case of a certain narrative. It's about, okay, acknowledging that harm was done and ending it before it escalates any further.
who's going to do that?
We're gonna
Who's
have
going
to
to
set it up
admit to
ourselves.
anything?
Who's No one's going to admit
Exactly.
to anything. Exactly. No one's going to admit.
Exactly.
So we need to we need to actually build these systems in place to enforce that, and that always comes back to what is our definition of what entails as harm. Because if we're all just going to go back and forth, like, oh, that's not that bad, oh, that's not rape, oh, that's not abuse, that's not bullying, then we have no evidence of anything happening. It always comes down to what is your criteria for this harm being done, and that is the place where we can start.
It sounds good to me. It sounds good to me. So
Oh,
how do you make that happen? A horse of a different color.
we hit the drawing board and we write constantly. And that's honestly why I'm really excited to launch psychologyverse.com, because that way I can collaborate with awesome people like yourself, as well as all my friends on chat as well here, because we need to something that the founding fathers actually had a really they had their flaws and they had all their biases and all their bullshit and everything. It was horrible. But one thing they knew how to do is that they wrote constantly. They wrote like they were running out of time, essentially. And we need to do the same. We need to come together, have these conversations as well, but also write the crap out of lots of essays. We need lots of essays. We need lots of documentation. We need to work with each other, writing circle wise, and come up with these solutions and hit the drawing board that way. That's how you do
Sounds
it.
good. Sounds good. And I'm on your team. I'm with you.
Thank you so much. Yes. We're going to write the crap out of this. We're going to figure this out idea wise, because we got to figure out what comes next after this. after this whole thing comes
Absolutely.
crashing down, we have to figure out what comes next. Because the one thing I don't see anyone talking about or trying to figure out is like, okay, if this system isn't working, then what can we do to replace it? What is the alternative? It's not enough just to patch it up. Then what is the alternative? That's something I don't see anyone coming up with. So we're gonna do it ourselves.
There it is. Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely. You got this. Smart people like you. Yes, we just have to keep moving and get you the support you need. Okay. And we're
Yeah.
here
And
for
also,
you. Okay.
thank you so
Yes.
much for joining me, Margaret. Oh my goodness, this is a great conversation. Uh, I
Thank you
want to
so
thank
much.
I want to thank Margaret Williams. Go follow her on the Substack as well as find all my content on Tigologyverse.com. And we shall see you for our next conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.